All right, guys. Today we're gonna be reacting to how I view the United States after 12 years living abroad. Interesting. We're gonna see what's going on here. Hopefully, we can just have some perspective and different opinions of how people experience living outside the United States, and maybe we can learn something here. Make sure you like to subscribe. Also, for donation, you can also hit the super chat or simply just go to the PayPal account or links in the description. And for those that already contribute to the channel, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. For more recommendations like this, go to my Discord, links in the description as well. Let's jump in.
Been abroad for 12 years now, and I thought it'd be interesting to talk about how my opinions and how my views have changed on the US after living abroad for so long. I saw a TikTok asking other Americans that live abroad the same question, how their views have changed since they've moved. They view the US now, and I thought it'd be interesting to add this into my 12 years abroad series, so let's jump right in with number 12, which is freedom. We are jumping right into it with freedom. If you know anything about the US, then you know what I'm talking about. The US prides itself on its freedoms. I don't know how many times I was told growing up that America is the land of the free and the home of the brave, and I should be willing to die for that freedom. As you can imagine, I just kind of believed it because I didn't know better, and why would they lie about that? Well, I can tell you my opinion has definitely changed since traveling and living abroad. It turns out the US isn't even in the top 10 freest countries according to the Human Freedom Index. It is in the top 20, ranked at
Now, interesting, right? Because based on a lot of these concept of freedom, right, a lot of people have different conception of what freedom really means. I mean, some countries think that freedom means that you should not offend other people, and all the people say that we should not even have freedom of speech because we can have certain, reactions of certain individuals. I mean, I don't know. This is very interesting, very interesting.
15, but the way the media and government talk about freedom in the US makes it sound like all other countries are imprisoning their people and forcing them to work, which is kind of ironic because the US actually ranks number 1 in incarcerated people. According to World Prison Brief, the United States leads the world in total number of people incarcerated, with more than 2 million prisoners nationwide. My views have definitely changed on the US being the freest country in the world. The US does have a lot of freedoms and has a strong judicial system, but so do other countries around the world.
Really,
And the
man?
US is
I thought that was the opposite, man. We lacking, we lacking a lot over here, man. We're look at California, man. Los Angeles, boy, but they're not even arresting people, man. California, state of Washington, state of Oregon, even the state of New York, they're not arresting people. I don't know if you guys know that. It's just because of the same argument. They don't want to arrest people. They don't want to put people in prison. So you basically can. This is this is true, folks. You can steal less than $1,000. If you steal less than $1,000, you don't even get a spank at your wrist. You don't go to prison. So I disagree with the guy here, right? And there's certain things I'm not gonna talk here on YouTube. Why we have a lot of large population incarcerated. Um, I don't know how to put this, man, because it is it's a difficult topic to have here.
not ranked number 1. Moving on to number 11 on our list is something that many people argue about and often goes hand in hand with the idea of freedom, and that is gun ownership in the US. It is very interesting to talk with people
Funny.
who are not from the US and who haven't grown up with gun ownership being a common and real thing. Growing up in the US, it was normal to own guns, and many people I knew had guns. I remember my brother having a shotgun in his house, and I didn't think it was that strange or weird. But this isn't normal globally, and actually only 3 countries have constitutional rights to own a gun. While most countries allow gun ownership, they impose strict laws regulating which types of guns
Yep.
you can own and how they are stored. According to Insider, Americans own nearly half of all the civilian-owned guns in the world.
Yep.
And on a per capita basis, the US has far more guns than any other nation.
Yep.
With so many guns come mass shootings, which is a uniquely US thing. These attacks rarely occur in other countries, and the frequency and destruction caused by these attacks is heartbreaking. My views have changed.
Yeah, but it's not because of gun. It's because of mental health. We have a crisis because back then it was worse, right? In 1950s, 1960s, That's what's unheard of. So we have a crisis of mental health, right? It's insane, right? And a lot of these shooters, they just basically find a gun. Even though you see a lot of these cases of mass shootings, and some of these cases are not even considered mass shooting. If certain people in Chicago, in Southside Chicago, kill 15 people, they're not considered mass shooting. I'm not gonna get into that, but a lot of these guns are illegally owned. They're not registered because we have background check systems, so they're not legally owned. So they find it illegal. And how do you ban illegal guns? Think about it, folks. How do you ban an illegal gun? It's supposed to be illegal. So even a ban would not even work. So you're leaving the mercy of the citizen to defend themselves, but then they can't because they follow the law. But the criminal doesn't follow the law. See, these conversations go a little bit deeper than you say, okay, United States gun, crazy people. It doesn't go like that, folks. I'm telling you, I don't know if you have friends, German friends that live in these cities. They can tell you.
Changed a lot on gun ownership from this is normal to what is wrong with the US? Speaking of what is wrong with the US, next on our list at number 10, which ties back into the last 2 points, is national pride. Americans are extremely patriotic and they believe that the US is the best country in the world, and you better not disagree with them because they might shoot you. Jokes aside, they are extremely patriotic because they've been lied to their whole lives. The US is a good country, but it is not the best country or worth chanting USA, USA, USA everywhere you go. Most Americans don't realize how bad they're getting screwed by the corporations and the government, and they truly believe that the US is number one in the world.
True.
It really depends on what...
Refuse to pay worker for the... I agree with him. I agree. And our tax system is messed up too. You only have 41% of people in the United States providing taxes to the system, and then you have over, I think it was over 55% of people are just taking advantage of the system without paying taxes. It's insane. It's an insane
what
system.
you are ranking, but the US is usually in the middle or lower half of a top 20 list. From freedoms to quality of life to education, the US is ranked all over the place and rarely is number one, except for prisoners, guns, military spending, GDP, and a few other things that aren't very flattering. It isn't until you move abroad and remove yourself from the media and forced lies that you start to realize the rest of the world isn't that bad, and some countries are even better than the US.
Yeah, hey, I have to agree. I mean, some of these European countries are beautiful, man, and some of these, Asian countries that do a better job. But it just so much to it, man. I don't want to get into this, man. But there's much to it. Demographics, something, man. Like, I mean, I'm not getting into it, man. I'm not gonna do that. But it is what it is, man.
Many countries are...
I mean, I agree with him when it comes down to the working environment and the working approach. And some of these companies, they want you to work endlessly, and then you ask for a free time or some vacation. You still have to go through some processes, man. I understand where he's coming from. I agree with him.
Better than the U.S. is education. Number 9 on our list is education. According to results from the Program for International Student Assessment, the U.S. ranks 39th in math, 23rd in reading, and 25th in science out of 73 surveyed countries. This is low for a country that claims to be number one. After living abroad for some time, it is clear that the U.S. does not value public education, and universities are run like businesses. The cost of higher education is appalling compared to the rest of the world, and don't get me started on public schools. There are videos of teachers asking for school supplies, and Mr. Beast just did a video about helping students and teachers because the US government doesn't provide enough resources. The US government doesn't seem to care about education, and this means the general public also doesn't seem to care about education.
Yeah, we have a problem with the public education. And I don't think money is going to solve it problem. We spend billions of dollars on education. I don't think money is going to... Putting more money to a problem that's already have problems with money, it's not going to fix it. But we do have problem with our education. I mean, it's out of control. Kids are basically just getting educated to their phone. I don't know how we're gonna fix this, but we have a lot of problem when it comes down to education. Man, we're behind.
Just search Americans are idiots and you will see how bad it is.
Yeah,
Not to
and
mention
some,
that
you know what's crazy, and I agree with him. Like I said, I do life insurance, and when I ask Americans, what country were you born? They tell me their county, and then I have to just ask him 7 times, and then they tell me their state. They don't even know what country they were born. I'm not joking. I tell my wife every day, and she knows when I'm dealing with certain type of people because she opened the door and she started laughing because I'm already in the 11th time asking the same question. Place of birth, country. What is your place of birth, country? / country. They don't know how. They don't know. It's insane.
dangers around teaching. After living abroad for a long time, it has become clear that education is not a high priority in the US, which is a shame because it is the best way for people to improve their lives and economic situation. Speaking of improving situations, we are about to hit number 8 on this list, but before I reveal that one, be sure to hit the like button because it really helps improve the situation of this video.
Situation.
Okay, let's jump back in
of this
with number
video?
8, which is healthcare.
Situation.
I remember growing up that I never went to the doctor, and I never understood why. It was just my family didn't go to the doctor unless somebody was dying. I mean, literally, the one time I spent the night in the hospital, I was actually dying, and if I didn't have a
Wow.
surgery, I would have died. And I never really thought anything of it, it's just we didn't go to the doctor. Well, it turns out we didn't go because it costs a fortune just for a simple checkup. The US has state-of-the-art hospitals and medicine, but unless you are rich or have good insurance, good luck accessing it. The US spends more of its GDP on healthcare than any other high-income countries,
Yeah.
yet ranks last in access to care, administrative efficiency, equality, and healthcare outcomes, according to the nonprofit Commonwealth
True.
Fund. I just typed into Google what countries have universal healthcare, and I realized it would be faster to look up which countries don't have universal healthcare. Some of the countries that don't have universal healthcare include Pakistan, Yemen, Syria, and of course, the United States. Basically, the entire world is covered in some form by a government-backed program, but the US is the only high-income country that doesn't have adequate and affordable coverage. Affordable being the key word in that last sentence. There are people that pay thousands of dollars on medication and treatment each month in the US, but if they lived in almost any other country, it would be free or affordable. My views have changed a lot on healthcare in the United States since leaving. And it's one of those situations that could be solved if people were willing to and if the corporations didn't make so much money.
Man, so forget about that, bro. If people are willing to forget about that, bro. You can't do that, man. I'm being practical here. You cannot think about, oh, this will work if people, wake up and corporations become good. I don't think that's a good approach here. You have to be practical, right? Okay, we're spending a lot of money. So what do we need to do? We need to reform our structure. Top to bottom, bottom to the top. Efficient. We have to increase the level of competency because Canada's going through Canada's going broke. Their healthcare system is going broke, man. And Canadians are actually just moving to the United States to get care. Because in Canada you cannot get service right away. You have to wait. So they're just jumping the fences to get healthcare in Montana. Yeah. So we have to restructure the entire system where we have to increase our skilled labor. All right? Increase it. Be productive. Not only that, be productive, but be efficient. We have to cut a lot of cost. Also, not cutting a lot of cost, but we have to make sure that whatever program we put there is fair play with the other type of program. It doesn't mean because it's the government, we're going to go in through debt like we're doing now. It's not efficient, so we're going to just go through debt. We're going through debt. No, it's mean that if the government cannot efficiently keep running to sustain that program, hey, bye-bye, man. Because right now, we're just throwing money. We're just throwing money. So yeah, I agree with him. Our healthcare system is just messed up.
Profit off of keeping the system the way it is. And it's such a shame because people are, suffering because of this system. And one of the ways it is profitable is by treating obesity related health issues, which brings us to number 7 on our list, food. In
Yeah.
the TikTok video I was watching about Americans and how their views had changed after living abroad, many of them were complaining about gaining weight or
Yep.
getting sick when they moved back to the United States because of the food. The food industry in the US is basically producing poison. The FDA allows food and packaging companies to use harmful chemicals when handling and processing food. These chemicals end up in the food, which can cause cancers and other health problems. Again, growing up in the US, eating Pop-Tarts for breakfast seemed like a normal thing to do. Little Debbie snacks
Insane. I agree with him.
and mac and cheese with hot dogs was a balanced diet, all washed down with Coca-Cola. It wasn't until I moved that I realized that some of the obesity problems in the US are actually food problems. It is easy to blame and say it is an individual's problem, which is part of the problem, but also a lot of the issues are related to the food industry and access to healthy foods. But changing the laws are much harder and not as profitable as changing people's attitude towards obesity. Now, if somebody says he, she, they are fat or unhealthy, they will get canceled for body shaming. So obviously my views have changed a lot in relationship to healthcare and food in the United States. Which brings us nicely to our
I did not understand that last statement there.
next point on the list, woke culture. A quote that always makes me laugh is, if you're not a liberal when you're 25, you have no heart. If you're not a conservative by the time you're 35, you have no brain. The cultural war that is raging right now in the US
It's
is
insane.
Like
Insane.
literally insane.
Yeah, I agree. There's an energy bursting, right? It's insane. I mean, I usually don't follow too much that. I used to follow a lot, but it's not healthy. I just follow what I need to follow, and I just read it. Outside of that, man, you have people just. It's not. People say it's in the United States. It's not only in the United States, folks. This is in Europe too. This is in the UK. UK is worse, man. The UK, oof, man, they having worse there, man. Canada, oof. My goodness, man. We own this, man. That woke culture thing, it's like it's started in California, it used to be LA, and then moved to New York, and from there, just that 2014, 15, 16, just it went crazy, man. And I personally believe it's because the universities got buffed up by a lot of money. So receiving a lot of money, so they created a lot of these courses and classes that really had no meaning. So that's when they started indoctrinating. And that didn't happen in only 1 or 2 years. Happened between the time span of 15 to 20 years. Gender study, diversity study, woman feminist studies, all these studies that you're like, what the hell, man? You have people with doctorate degrees with those topics. So yeah, they just spread. And all of a sudden, this is what we have, where you have a baby and the baby need to consent to even. The baby has to consent to even call him a baby. I'm not lying, folks. You can look it up.
And it's all a distraction to keep people from enacting any real change in the government or society.
Agreed.
If all sides are fighting with each other and themselves, the people in power and the corporations can pass legislation that hurts both sides and makes them more profit. The last thing they want is for all sides to unite under their common struggle and oust the people currently in power. The craziest thing is that when you are removed from it and you're living abroad, you can just see how crazy and insane it is and how damaging it is to society. While Americans are fighting about what a woman is or if the celebrity has used the correct pronoun, the rest of the world knows what a woman is and isn't wasting time on things that don't make their country or economy stronger.
Yeah, it's a good
While
point.
American students are in their gender study classes wondering if they are
That's what I said.
a man, woman, or other.
Stupid.
Chinese and Indian students are in their math and physics classes gaining real knowledge that might lead to the next breakthrough in science or technology. Learning about someone's gender isn't a real skill and won't create a breakthrough that could revolutionize any industry. It isn't even medical science. At best, we might learn about groupthink when people study this time period in the future. but in its current form, woke culture and the backlash to it is destroying society.
Damn.
Societies only exist when people are willing to share the same goal and work towards that goal
Culture,
together.
yeah.
Currently, both sides are unwilling to find common ground, and they're literally tearing each other apart. They're tearing the society apart, and the people in power absolutely love it. My views have changed a lot on this after traveling to many countries because these types of debates aren't even considered in most places. Most people around the world are too concerned about feeding their families and improving their
Yep.
lives
Good point.
to even think about pronouns. But enough about all that.
But
We've made it
that,
to
you
number
know what's crazy? In another introspective, that means that we creating problems because we are too comfortable. We have the money, we are comfortable, we have our AC, our government's paying for everything, like it's too comfortable. So we have to create problems. We don't want to deal with the real problems. Poor, hunger, crime. We don't want to deal with that. We want to deal with what is a woman.
5 on the list, and if you're still here, then you probably agree with me on many of these points. You probably also know that YouTube will not push this video to anyone, so be sure to like and share it with your friends to help others understand how the US looks from abroad. Next up on this list is another thing that is destroying the United States from the inside, and it's this consumerism, flex culture, celebrity worship. I'm sure there's a term for this, but I don't actually know what it is. It's basically the worship or the love of money. A Harris poll of 3,000 children between the age of 8 to 12
Good point. Yeah, that.
revealed that YouTuber was the first choice of
Yeah, man, that's a good point, man. I have to give it to him. He's making a good
29%
point
of
here.
them. Don't get me wrong, I would love to make a full-time income on YouTube.
Yeah, it's
But I
hard.
don't think that young people should be inspiring to be social media stars. If the US culture continues to inspire children to become celebrities and OnlyFans stars, the US will lose its competitive advantage
Yep.
in science and technology. When I was growing up, children wanted to be doctors, astronauts, teachers, and scientists. Sure, there were some kids that wanted to be WWE stars or actors, but they were usually outliers and not the norm. Nowadays, based on the polls, children want to be YouTube stars and they look up to Mr. Beast. I get the appeal of money and fame, but it is a slippery slope.
Yep.
If children look up to YouTubers, celebrities, and hustle culture promoters,
Hey, I don't have nothing against Mr. Beast, but this kind of content is like, I don't know what to say, man. It's one of those content, right? Like, I don't know what to say. Like 100,000 subscribers special. Damn. 100 million subscribers. Did I read that right? Damn.
not doctors or scientists, I feel the future is doomed. The internet has created a lot of opportunities for new work and ways of making money, but very few content creators are curing cancer or creating the next tech
Yeah, we need
revolution.
that. We need them.
If all the kids want to be YouTubers, who is going to build the future? Speaking of building the future, we all have to work, which brings us to our next point. The US mistreats employees. More than 120 countries
point.
around the world provide paid maternity leave and health benefits by law,
And this is,
including
you know
most
what?
industrialized
And this is one of those points that I agree, man. When my last kid was born, and I remember when I was gonna get hired, we discussed the maternity leave because I knew my boy was gonna be born. Happens to be when he was born, he was almost gonna born. Was born. He was almost gonna be delivered. I approached my upline and told her, and she never told me anything. She said, follow these steps and call and request maternity leave. I did, got the client, get back to her, and she said, yeah, I'm sorry that happened. Here, get your PTO, your paid time off. I'm like, what? Yeah, the way we can do it, you can take some paid time off and do this and that. I'm like, man, really, bro? Like, not cool, man. You're trying, you.
nations except Australia, New Zealand, and the United States, according to reports from the International Labor Office. Just think about that for a second. Mothers who have just given birth are not given paid maternity leave by US law. Because there are no laws on the books, it is up to employers to decide how much time and money new mothers are given. This is supposed to be a happy moment in a couple's life, but most parents miss out on important bonding because they have to go back to work. You'll be lucky to get 3 or 4 weeks off, and even
Good point.
luckier if it's paid. If you're commenting about the Family and Medical Leave Act of 1993 right now, I get it, there are some protections, but that really only covers unpaid leave. With the average family in debt and less than $6,000 in their bank accounts, it is hard to take 12 weeks unpaid leave.
Yeah, good point.
Maternity leave is just one example of how U.S. employees are getting hurt. Another good example is employment at will contracts, which only benefit the employer. Because many workplaces don't offer full-time contracts with salaries and benefits, employees are constantly anxious about their jobs. There is little job security with employment at will contracts, which pressures workers to work harder and longer because they are worried about losing their job. These types of contracts allow managers to create schedules that keep employees from reaching full-time hours, which means companies don't have to pay for insurance or other benefits that full-time employees
I
should
never
receive.
knew about that. Huh.
Employers have even gone farther
Yeah, I've never heard about that. Interesting.
by creating gig work and refusing to classify workers as employees, reducing their tax, insurance, and benefit obligations. They create campaigns claiming that it is good for employees and that it provides more flexibility, but in reality, it only burdens workers. People don't want to feel insecure about their livelihoods. Reports and studies show that people are more productive and happier when they feel secure in their workplace. Employment isn't always fair and balanced in the United States, and two things really jump out to me when talking about this. First, Americans have been trained to hate unions. It is surprising just how much effort has gone into breaking.
It doesn't work. I understand. Unions don't work, man. I'm telling you. I don't know if you. It's just that some things in the United States here don't work. In Europe, it's the same. It's the same concept. Certain things in Europe will not work here. Unions. I always go to the MTA. You guys have to go to these places, and there's a lot of union around here. And when there's a very strong union, usually the places are just falling apart. Services are bad. They're always on strike. They don't want to work, and then they're on strike, and at the same time they're getting paid. And also, if you enter your new job and that job has a union, you have to pay the union on top of that. I'm telling you, folks, unions in the United States don't work because of the culture. See, it's not the concept that doesn't work. It's just the culture of the unionites. It's very bad. It's very bad, right? Unions. What doesn't work? You go to the MTA in New York. It's just it's like a mob. You go to the California, same thing. Chicago, same thing. Here in Wisconsin or here in Minnesota, same thing. You know there's a union because they're giving poor services. Especially let's talk about the education. They have a very strong union. That's why they can just get away with a lot of these things. Good luck trying to just fire a teacher because they're the union. It's very different, right? It's not just saying like union. Union is the problem. No, it's just the culture, the union, and the culture of the unions in the United States is not feasible. It's not good at all. Folks, I'm telling you, if unions were good, I'll be the first one telling you, hey, man, we need more unions. But in the United States, the approach of union is very bad, culturally, that is. Because they don't portray the best results. They don't have the best result. I'm telling you, they don't do well.
Or stopping unions. This is a video in itself, but history has shown that workers have benefited the most when strong labor unions force business owners to increase wages and provide more benefits. But because this history is not taught in schools, call back to my previous point, workers believe unions cost them money and don't help their employment situation. The second thing I've noticed is that people define themselves by their work. They are what they do. In other countries, people are more concerned about their family relations or hobbies, but in the US, your job is who you are and everything else is secondary. Because
Not like that.
success
Yeah,
is defined
right.
by money
That gift was very representative of what is going on in the United States.
and not happiness or relationships, people in the US are obsessed with their careers. This creates a culture of unfulfilled and unhappy people because they care so much about their work, but their employer doesn't care about them.
Good
I'm not
point.
saying it's perfect around the world, but there does seem to be a hyper focus on productivity and self worth through work within the United States,
Good
which
point.
should be changed to create a better working environment for U.S. workers.
I agree.
We are about to make it into the top 3 ways my views have changed on the US, but before we make it to number 1, be sure to hit the like button because I'm afraid that YouTube will suppress this video.
No, I don't think
YouTube
so. It's a
doesn't
good
always
video.
push videos that tell the truth, so hit that like button or share it with a friend because they might also like the video. Moving on to number 3, transportation. This one might seem strange at first, but let me explain. If you live in the United States and you want to get around, you have to own a car. Period. Most cities do not have adequate public transportation or even good bike lanes. The
Good
US
point.
is car dominant, and without a car, you will struggle to do basic tasks. Things have changed in the last 12 years with ride sharing apps and food delivery apps, but it is still really difficult to get around in the United States if you don't own a car.
Yeah, because it's too big. The United States too big, man. I know public transportation can do so much, but the United States so big. I don't know how you go from Wisconsin to Nevada. Like it's so big. It's big, big, big. So
Growing up in the US, that seemed normal because it is normal for the US, but outside of the US, many countries have decent public transportation.
that looks nice.
Countries like the Netherlands, Sweden, and Denmark all have designed cities to incorporate biking, and many people bike to work.
That's
Many
nice.
countries in Asia, like Japan, Korea, and China, have subways and high-speed trains connecting cities and areas.
Man, and why we can't do that, man? You see what I'm saying? Why we cannot do that? It's it's a little bit of pride on that. Like, let's just do what these countries are doing, man.
Areas,
I
which
agree.
makes it convenient to get around. With
Yeah.
all the money the U.S. government spends on
Yeah, by that time we could have just built a high-speed train from Wisconsin to Nevada. I agree. We have these Amtrak train, I guess, but then even them, that I don't know, man.
the military and subsidies, it could have redesigned many of the cities to include bike lanes and subway systems. When
Yep.
people feel safe on the roads and the cities encourage biking, people will bike. There are enough examples of cities redesigning their downtown areas and encouraging biking to support the investment, but
It's too dangerous, man. It's too dangerous. I would love to have bike lanes being used around, which people do, right? But not at this level. People do ride bikes around. We have bike lanes, but it's too dangerous, folks. And I'm not talking about the cars. I'm talking about criminals. You're a target, man. You're a target, bro. You're a target. You're a target. There's a lot of criminals, man. There's a lot of criminals.
despite these examples, nothing seems to change. Bus routes, subways, trains, and bike lanes are not developed despite evidence that it improves people's lives and commutes.
Yeah, health.
If the US took a little bit of their military spending and diverted it back into infrastructure, they could create more jobs and better
You don't have to do that. All that money that we're just sending out, those almost $100 billion, keep it there if we do this. That's it.
cities. My opinions on public transportation have changed a lot after living and traveling in cities that have good public transportation.
Yeah, good. That's
Speaking of
that's
government
clean.
spending, number 2 on our list is the US government. And there are 2 things I want to talk about. Let's first talk about the military. The US doesn't need to police the world. By taking on this role, it has allowed other nations to expect and rely on US military support. But that has weakened both the US and
I agree with that. I agree with that.
reliant nations. It has weakened reliant nations because they spend less money on their own militaries, and it has weakened the US because the US spends too much money on the US military.
That's
If
crazy.
the US spent 10 or 20% less on the military each year and diverted it back into building the US, it would be a stronger nation in terms of domestic strength. The US would have better healthcare, schools, infrastructure, and public services.
But I don't know about this one, man. I really don't know. Knowing how many enemies the United States have, I don't know about that, folks. I know I used to be one of those people who would say, nah, just cut the military. But then when you see all the enemies and you see Russia in one corner, you don't see China, you start thinking like Iran, you start thinking like, damn, man. And then you see the military, the Europeans, it's like, you're like, man, what should we do here, man? I don't know. I really don't know, folks. This one needs a little bit more thought in my head.
But that will never happen because the US government is fractured and dysfunctional, which brings us to the second point that I want to address. The two parties are not working to benefit the people, and because of this, people are voting more and more extreme. The US government allows lobbies to push specific agendas that don't benefit the people, and because of this, the people vote for anyone that promises change. Right or left, it doesn't matter because both sides are becoming more and more unhinged. The two sides are no longer working together, and the lobbies are funding special projects that only benefit the corporations.
Damn.
The politicians are corrupt and always have been, but now it seems like there is less cooperation between the two sides, and this is all spurred on by the mainstream media, which brings us to our final point. But before I talk about the mainstream media, be sure to hit that like button because YouTube is part of the problem and they will probably suppress this video.
Yeah, even I don't agree with a lot of things that he says. And a lot of things are good too. I don't agree with YouTube just suppressing his content. I don't agree with that, man. And YouTube is just one of those companies, man. They're really messing things up, bro. Like, man, crazy. Huh? In the last 10 years, YouTube has gone. I don't know, man. So strict, man. That it's almost not enjoyable to watch YouTube. And then they have weird ads too, like very weird ads, folks. Very weird. Like even 6 years ago, those ads were never appeared. It's crazy, man.
Okay, let's talk about the US media. It's all fake news. I don't support Trump or his policies, but I totally understand him and why people voted for him. He coined the term fake news, but he's not wrong.
Yeah, I
can't
mean,
even
it's
really
true.
call it-
It's true. Fox News, CNN, all these medias, man, they are just fake, man. Fake. Because they're not reporters. They're not really journalists. They're just actors. They're just actors behind the camera, just getting some basic information, and they just prattle. They put a little season, and when they have the interview with somebody, they have the little headphone, the little headphones in their ear, and they're trying to just over talk the guests. It's weird, man. I don't watch media at all, but it's weird when you see it. When you detach yourself and you start seeing it, it's weird.
news anymore, and it's bad on both sides. In the past, we used to have tabloids in the supermarkets
Yep.
at the checkouts, and they would always have the most ridiculous headlines like, "Woman gives birth to alien and claims the father is Joe Biden. We have the exclusive interview. You won't believe what she said."
Yeah.
We all knew it was fake, but it was kind of fun to read. Nowadays, this is every news headline. Because the news is a business and needs to make money, they will print the most outrageous headlines to get more views and clicks. Mix the mainstream media in with social media and actual fake
MLB.
news by your favorite YouTuber,
Major League Baseball is the media. I don't know what happened there.
and you create a nation of misinformed people. If you
Yep.
can't distinguish between lies and truth, then you will forever be lost. And I feel many people in the United States right now are
I agree with
lost.
him.
They are fighting over lies, and because they want something to be true, they are willing to believe lies. This goes for both sides. Doesn't matter which opinion you hold about a topic, someone is creating content to push you farther down the rabbit hole. As long as there's money to be made off of content, then Fox and CNN
Yep.
and YouTube and TikTok and Facebook and Twitter, all of the social media platforms will continue to push this content out regardless of the truth. This is not just a US problem, but because most of the mainstream media is US based or US centric, and because most of the popular apps are US based, it is a major problem for the US. My opinion on news and popular apps have changed a lot after moving abroad, and I think this problem will continue until better regulations are implemented. So there you have it, 12 ways my opinions have changed about the US after living abroad for 12 years. If you
Hey, man, good, very good. That very good video. Very good video. I love that video. He did very good, man. Some of the things we agree on, but some of the other things, we don't, which is fine. I'm okay with that. But he has good points, man. Very good points. Very good channel, man. And make sure you guys go to his channel, just like his stuff. Let me just subscribe as well. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I would love to hear you guys' opinion. In the meantime, guys, I will see you in the next one.